Okay, right now I'd like to bring up Sarah Bennett and John Mayer from the Leftist Marching Band. The Leftists performed at the very first HONK festival, and they've been at it ever since. And now they're collecting lots and lots of information about how to manage and start and keep going with brass bands.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Reby. Thank you, Tufts. Thank you, HONK. Yeah. And just to get us started, maybe you can help me with that. HONK? HONK! Thank you. Oh, I need my notes. My name is John Mayer. I am a sax player with the Leftist Marching Band. And as Reby said, we've been to every HONK, starting 20 years ago. Our band is 21 years old today. We built a relationship with Second Line and used to come down to Somerville and play. And they used to come up and play with us in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where we're located. Thrilled to be here today, and I'm going to introduce my colleague and fellow band member, Sarah Bennett.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bennett. I play the clarinet, and I've been with the Leftist Marching Band for about 10 years. I can't tell you what an honor it is to be here. It's always an honor to be part of HONK, but today is a special. So it says 26 questions. Don't be alarmed. That's how many questions we asked in our survey. We'll probably cover 9 or so of them. I think I need this closer. Is this better? Okay, sorry. All right. So a couple words before we get started. Thank you. All the photos that we use here are photos of bands that we know responded to the survey. Unfortunately, we don't know all the bands that responded because I was an idiot and didn't ask them to identify themselves. So here's what I want you to do. If you see a picture of your band, shout out the name of that band. Can you do that for me? Okay. We'll see how that works. And also, I'm putting my timer on, and it's 11:05 right now, and I'm going to put it on for, let's say, 22 minutes, okay? And when it goes off, we have a few minutes to wrap up. Okay, so I want you to do something for me. If you have already taken a look at the results of our survey, and the survey looks like this, but I think most of you got a PDF of it. If you've already taken a look at it, please stand up.
Amazing.
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
If you are playing in a don't sit down. If you are playing in a band this weekend with HONK, stand up. Woohoo!
Look at that.
Okay, cool. If you haven't stood up yet and you're thinking about starting a band, stand up. You can't sit down yet. And anybody else that hasn't stood up yet, everybody stand up. Okay? All right, and just look around. We are part of an amazing community. And if there was ever a time that we all need to stand up, that time is now. Okay. Okay, you may all sit down now. All right, thank you. John, it's your turn. I'm going to turn it.
So, one of my questions to respond to is why are we here today? So Sarah and I put this survey together, and part of our job is to let you know a little of the things that we learned from the survey. And we'll talk about why we think that is so important. We learned a lot from this. And another part of my question is, how did we put this together? I mean, we didn't wake up and say, hey, let's do this and come to HONK and be on the podium. You remember the election that happened and how our world changed pretty dramatically. And our band, the Leftist Marching Band, we felt very strongly this threat of violence, our concern that there would be reaction to our playing, and we wanted to figure out how to prepare and be ready for that and not lose our energy. That was a really important realization. And there were several meetings. We were part of a Zoom call with bands in the Boston area talking about how we can be strong and prepare for that. Interestingly, at the same time, we were receiving queries from people who wanted to join our band. They were coming all throughout the region. Many people were an hour or two away. A very close band member moved up to Vermont and was looking for ways to start their band. So part of this also was thinking, how can we help this happen? So we began to look at ways to share ideas for building a band. We reached out to the HONK community, and we got the idea of doing a survey. That was sort of the beginning of it.
Actually, the very beginning of it was that we were kind of, or I was dissatisfied with using Google Groups for the Leftist Marching Band internal communication. And I hope no big brother is listening right now. I'm sure they are. And I was wondering what alternatives there were. Now, in our band, everybody, and it's so kind of entrenched, it probably wasn't going to make sense. But when our friend Katie started a new band, I thought, I wonder what other bands use. I wonder if we could do a little survey. And that's really how the thing got started. And John suggested, working with the folks at HONK, and honestly, it kind of took off from there. You want to talk about how we got the list of, oh, sorry, yeah.
So HONK helped us. They sent us the list of all the bands who've been to HONK Festival over the past 20 years. The 115 bands who have performed here in Somerville over that time. Yeah. Pretty amazing. So we began to go through that list, and I'll tell you, it is amazing how that was a window into the world of this community. We developed contact information, and as you can imagine, over 20 years, not every band still exists. And some bands have reformed and become new bands. So from that 115 bands, we had a list of 60 organizations that we contacted. And that became the group that we reached out to. And in an idle moment, if you want to explore that on the HONK website, you can see the 115 bands who have been here at HONK. It's a pretty amazing community that we're part of.
Yeah. So how were the questions developed? I basically thought, if I were starting a band, what would I want to know about how these bands function? And also, are there some things such as internal communication that we could actually, we could use some new information or new ideas about? And also, Trudy Cohen and John Bell from HONK gave us some suggestions for questions as well. As I say, we came up with 26 finally. They range from highly quantifiable, sort of simple, basically like how often do you rehearse? Hint, it's weekly for 99% of the bands. To things like how do you deal with conflict, or what's a challenge that what's a big challenge that your band faces? And because I don't like being fit into boxes myself, even when I was asking fairly straightforward questions that could be, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, I always gave room for people to do open response, and man, did people do open response. Which is why this thing is almost 40 pages long. Don't let that scare you. It is such interesting reading, and especially if you're part of this community. You know what? It works better this way. Did you just do that? Oh, well, whatever. So, as I say, open-ended questions versus quantifiable questions, sort of easily quantifiable. And so we're going to take a look at the results in a moment, or some of the results, I should say. And as I say, we don't exactly know which bands responded. 30 bands did respond. They're mostly from North America. We have a band from Brazil, also Germany, France, and Italy, so that's kind of cool. I wouldn't say this is a particularly, I'm wearing a lab coat. This is not a particularly scientific survey. The sample size is only 30, which isn't that great. But I think there's still lots to learn. It's limited to the bands that went to HONK, obviously, but we did include our friend Katie's new band.
I just showed it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
We go back.
There it is.
Katie's new band just started in June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sutton, Vermont.
Yep, it's they're called the Whistle Pig Riot. And also, a couple of the bands that responded are now what I would consider to be professional bands, which is a little bit different, I think. But we included those results anyway. Most of the information that we got can't really be put into a pie chart or a bar graph, but some can, most not. And I guess I'm about ready to share some of the results. First of all, I'd like you to think about your own band, why it exists, how it functions, and what would you recommend? What would you recommend to a person wanting to start a band? Things that you would keep or things that you would change. I'm going to be describing for each of these 9 or 10 questions that we're going to go through if we have time. I'm going to be sharing what comes out as a typical band or a typical response. And I'll mention also some other common approaches, and there may be an interesting outlier or two. So, all right, why was your band started? Basically, the big answer was the love of playing music and the general desire to support lefty causes, along with wanting to make a honk band. I mean, obviously that wasn't the case for the first years of honk, but so that was the general reason that people are starting these bands. But quite often it was in response to a political situation, such as the murder of George Floyd or the APEC summit in Vancouver in 1997. And also there was some specific cultural events that bands formed, kind of like pop-up bands that just never went away. A pickup band for a Halloween party, a theater production needed a band, the Mermaid Parade in New York City, and those bands are still with us, which is awesome. And then one of my favorite answers was we wanted a way to play the music from video games and anime that we love so much. Okay. Do new members go through any vetting process? We had sort of a large number of bands that said, absolutely not, we are a radically inclusive band. Okay. And so that was a very common answer, no, we don't have any vetting procedure or process. A lot of bands said, come to a few rehearsals, let's see how it feels. And then some bands have formal auditions, or you have to agree to some sort of formal stated expectations. But in general, no, there's no vetting process. Where do you get your music? This was interesting. Interesting in that everybody had the same answer. All the bands get their music from other bands, from open source, and here's the thing that really blew me away. Every band that responded said, oh, and maybe somebody in our band is writing charts, which I think is fabulous. I mean, not necessarily original tunes, but, they're arranging, which is awesome. Oh, we're supposed to shout out here. John, I didn't hear you. LMB. LMB, woo! Okay. Okay. How many members? Now this, oops, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, how many members? So who was that band? Okay, awesome. I'm going to show you the one bar chart that, sorry. Okay. the sort of typical band either has between 16 and 20 members or over 30. And a couple things to note. One is that there's a few bands that have over 100 members or over 200 members, okay? But I was interested in the fact that there weren't that many bands that were in the 21 to 30 range. And I'm going to show you the next slide because I started to develop a hypothesis. And the next slide is, okay, how are decisions made? And there were basically two main responses to that. One is the band has committees that make the decisions, or there are formal roles that are assigned, or maybe that get traded off. That was one common response, a typical band. And then the other typical band, which is John and my band, whoever shows up. But there were also bands who do formal voting on, or in consensus on topics. And there's a couple bands that had one or two people in charge. And one band has become a 501c3 that I guess every band member is a board member. But, it's quite formal. So my hypothesis was that, if I go back to the bar chart, that when bands get to be a certain size, if they don't have, remember this is my hypothesis, if they don't have a fairly structured way of making decisions and organizing themselves, they start to fall apart. And so my guess was that the ones that make it to 30 members have really developed some method of structuring themselves. And you know what? I was absolutely wrong. In fact, there was no correlation that I could find at all. So there you go. That's the beauty of science. Okay, who leads the band musically? This was particularly interesting to me because I'm terrified of leading a band, and I do a terrible job when I do it. And yet there's an expectation in our band that everybody really should be doing it, although that's not the reality. But basically the bands were divided into three practically equal groups. A few people trade off, that was the most common. One person is the leader, the musical leader, that was another very common response. And then everyone takes turns, which is terrifies me. That was another very common response. So, do you ever charge money? Basically, the big answer is yes, whenever possible, or usually. One band said never, because money ruins everything. And I'm proud to say that that's the Leftist marching band. I live in Lynn, which is not very far from here, and it's quite a ways for me to go to Portsmouth. And once somebody walked by our band while we were playing and handed me a $5 bill, and it was like, what am I supposed to do with it? And finally people decided, you know what, keep it for your gas money. So that's the only money I'm really aware of taking. But then the next question, if you do take money, and most bands do when possible, what do you do with it? And the big answer was, we pay band expenses. Maybe we have to pay for a rehearsal space, or just schlepping stuff from here to there. So band expenses was the big thing. A certain number of bands did say we like to pay our musicians, and a couple of bands said we donate to worthy causes if we have money. So that's what we do with our money. How do you deal with conflict? Okay. How do you deal with conflict? Well, it's a lot about talk. That was the major response. Talking it out, preferably in person. There were a couple of outliers. There was one band that says sometimes we bring in an outside facilitator to help with something serious. And another band has a formal, and probably more than one band, has a formal grievance process that is used during these situations. I don't know why I came up with this question, but it did, because we've had problems in our band in the past, it did strike me as an interesting question. And you know, the standard answer was, yes, we have banned a member. That was the very typical answer. Usually it was only one. And the amount that people wrote about it, it was clearly, you know, it left an effect. And as far as I could tell, it was always because the band member made others feel unsafe, just so you know, okay? And do you have strategies for band safety or keeping the band safe during gigs? I don't know who this is right off the top of my head, but it's, they're playing in the grocery store. I don't know if you can tell that. So the common answer was, we have some strategies, but we know we need more. Another common response was, no, we don't have any strategies. And then a surprising number of bands said, we don't play gigs where we think we're going to be unsafe. And then a few bands said, well, we've been talking about it. And one band, I can't remember who, in fact, I might not even know who, says we have well-developed strategies. So, anyway, so it's a work in progress. Oh, thank you. I've got one more thing to say, or a couple more things to say. What makes your band successful? Thank you. What challenges do you face? What advice would you give? Now, I have to tell you, the best parts of the survey results I haven't even talked about because, and I'm not going to talk about it because they're really part of they're the comments that people made, and especially in answering those 3 questions. You'll have to read it for yourself. We have, we've got a QR code that will take you to Leftist Marching Band. The survey's at the bottom of the main page. Now more than ever, we need you all. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sarah Bennett, thank you. So I just have my wrap up, and I learned this from the Zoom I was part of. It was something I hadn't really thought about. But at this moment in our world, self-care, right? So think about what's happening in our world and the things we do in our band. Look at the survey, because I think when you read that, you're going to feel awfully connected, validated, and enabled. And when you are that way, you can go to your band, and you can bring that love and that energy and make us better. And when we're better, we go out into our community and we make change. And that's what it's all about. So thank you, everybody. I think we have a minute. I don't know if there's a question or a comment. We welcome it. I guess I wondered, what's next? Who's going to do the next one? But we're thrilled to be here. Sarah and I are going to be around over the weekend and happy to talk. Was there a question?
Yeah, just a quick one. For the band that has well-developed safety plans, that would be awesome if we could open source that.
You know, I'll see if I can figure out who it was and get in touch with them. Because the one thing I didn't say is that I asked every band, would, you know, if somebody needed help starting a new band, would they be willing to share? And almost all the bands said yes. So I'll see what I can do, okay?
Hi.
I got a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just want to do a quick plug for some ways to stay connected outside of the survey and where people are chatting. So there's 2 groups. There's a Facebook group called HONK Performers, Activists, and Dance. I can't remember the name of it, but it's, if you look up HONK Performers, you can find that for people still using Facebook. And otherwise, there's a Discord server That is also, we have a link of that on Facebook, and if people want to be added to it, they can come talk to me. I'm Angie, hi. And I posted the results of the survey on here. I think it would be a great outlet to repeat this survey and get it out to more people, because there's some bands that haven't been to HONK Fest. There's people all over the world who are in this community, and that's a great way to stay connected to each other.
Thank you. All right.
Hi, I'm in the very back.
Okay.
You asked who's going to do the next survey, and so I have a question for you. What is a question or questions you wish you had asked in the survey?
I wish I'd asked the bands to name who they were. But
Anything else?
I think our time is up.
Yeah, no. Let's talk later. All
Yeah,
right, we
all right.
say thank you.
Thank you very
Honk,
much.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Tufts.